Welcome back to another video tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. I want to create a Photoshop project today showing how to make realistic falling snow. And I want to start by doing a Google search. I'm going to type in falling snow. And let's peruse through some of these images here and get an idea on what it is that creates the illusion of realistic falling snow. One of the first things I see is varying sizes of the falling snow and irregular shapes and sizes of the snow. In addition to that, various levels of brightness of the pieces of snow seem, at least to my eye, suggest depth of field. The ones that are closest to the camera are larger and they seem to be more illuminated, and ones that are perhaps further from the camera are smaller and less illuminated. Let's see what other images are readily at hand here that we can pick apart and learn from, because making scenes in view is really easy, realistic scenes, but creating falling snow, that's a different story altogether. Here's another one, and we've got lots of very irregular shapes to our snow on this one, and I like that. We can definitely use that to our advantage when we jump into Photoshop and start creating our snow. And again, I'm seeing various shapes and sizes and levels of brightness to the pieces of snow. I'm also seeing there's some irregular movement. It's not all falling straight down. And given the objects in this scene here, I don't know what's over here on the left side, but we've got lots of trees that's going to, if there's any sort of breeze, it's going to cause the wind to jump around and go in all sorts of various directions. And that's going to have an impact on the movement of the snow. So I'm going to focus on making pieces of snow of different shapes, different sizes, different levels of illumination, and to have them dispersed or moving around in various directions. Well, I'm going to start off with the scene I created several years ago. I didn't create a snow scene for this, but I thought this one will work just fine because it has the right coloring, the right mood that will make creating snow on here pretty convincing. So I'm going to start off by creating a new layer, come up here to Edit, Fill, and I want to fill this layer in with 50% gray. Click OK. Come up here to Filter and select Noise and add noise. I want 400% for the amount. For the distribution, I want Gaussian and I want monochromatic checked on. I'll click OK. Come up here to Blur, and I want to apply a Gaussian blur to this. And I'm going to bring this up to about 2%. I'm going to click OK. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, come up here to Image, Adjustments, and Levels. Now watch what happens to my snow field here when I bring up my shadow or my darkness slider. Now I can start actually seeing individual snowflakes. And they're various sizes. Some of them look kind of clumpy. Some of them look very small. Some of them have different levels of illumination. I like that. Before I make a selection here, though, I'm going to come back up here to Filter, and I'm going to run the Gaussian filter again. Now Image, Adjustments, Levels. Let's see what it gives us this time. And that is probably too much. So I'm going to come back one level, Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and instead of giving it 2, I'll give it 1. Now let's run my adjustments and levels. Bring up my shadow. There we are. I like this distribution of snowflakes here. it seems pretty realistic. Okay, I'm going to click OK for that. Now ideally what I want is I want all this white, all these snowflakes on their own layer without the black background. So down here where my cursor is, I've got 3 tabs: layers, channels, and paths. I know it doesn't show up here on this video. Sorry, I don't know how to correct that. But I want to click on channels, and on the RGB black square here, I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm going to click right on that. And what that does is it loads the luminosity of this channel as a selection. Come back to my Layers tab. I'm going to create a new layer above that with white as my foreground color. I'm going to hold down Alt and Delete, and now I have all that snow on its own layer. Now I want to Control D and deselect that. This black layer down here, I don't need that anymore. I can get rid of that. I want to duplicate this snow layer. One of them I'm going to move over here to about the center, and the other one I'm going to move the other direction to about the center, and make sure that they either meet perfectly in the middle or they are overlapping. Okay, with one of them, and it doesn't matter which, I'm going to come up here to Filter, come down here to Distort. I'm going to come over here to Shear. Now what the Shear tool allows me to do is it allows me to create a custom warp or a bending action here in the middle of my snow field. Because what this will do is it will give some movement to my snowflakes, and I don't want much. If I want more, I can always come back and run this filter again if I need more movement in my snow. But I want to start off working in small increments. I can always add more, and I'm going to leave it on wraparound. I'm going to click OK. Now let me turn off, let me zoom in here, and I'm going to undo and then redo, and you see it's starting to add some movement to this snow, and I like that. So I'm going to come over here to my other layer, and I'm just going to run the filter on that layer. And let me zoom in here, and I'm already getting some movement, which to me tells my eye that there's some wind blowing this little flaky snow around. I think what I'll do is I will run the filter again on this one. Let me do a before and after, and I will run the filter on the other side. Do a little before and after. Now I'm starting to get lots of movement in there. I like that. Well, we've got movement, and I have the appearance of various levels of illumination in here, and I'm fairly happy with that. But one thing I want to do is I want to create one more layer. Now I want to somewhat center this. It doesn't have to be perfect, because what I want to do now is expand it. I want to stretch it out, because this will create the snowflakes that are closer up here to the camera, which will give me that added depth for my falling snow. And I'm just moving it around now, trying to see what it is that I like. And that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to go with that. Now I've got all these layers that are hanging out over the border of my image, so I'm going to use my crop tool and just crop it all down and get rid of all that excess. Now this top layer here of all these big snowflakes, I've got a little too much snow, at least a little too much for my personal liking. So I'm going to come down here and click on Add a Layer Mask, because I want to add a layer mask to this. Now with the layer mask selected, I'm going to come up here to Filter and Render, and I'm going to render a cloud filter over that. And the black and white areas will mask out a lot of that snow. I'll hold down shift and I'll do it before, and you see I still got some large pieces in there, but I've just covered up a lot of them. So let me come to a full screen here. I'll hit F, and that is a pretty realistic looking falling snow with even some added wind in there. Now if you want more motion, you can go ahead and, let's come back to one of these layers, and we can even use the distort, the twirl. I wouldn't add too much, but play around with it to your liking. You can even add a little bit of a twirl to add some more movement in here. Especially on a scene like this where you've got all these buildings, irregular shapes, pieces of the buildings protruding, sticking out, all these objects along the seaside over here. Any wind that's coming through here is going to be going in all sorts of different directions, and it's just going to be blowing the snow all over the place. So I think that's a realistic look based on the objects that are in our scene here. So I hope you like this tutorial. I think it gives the impression of creating realistic snow. So thanks for watching here at Geekatplay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.